back to a Big Dreamers podcast. Today, I am honored to have Jenergy with us. And honestly, we're just going to talk about where her energy comes from, where her inspiration comes from. A lot of you guys may or may not know a lot of the things that she's into, but she's honestly into so many amazing things. Since I've met her, she's, a DJ. She's been, acro yoga, fire spinning. Probably so many things that I can't even remember right now. There's like this form of working out where she's like doing animalistic type of moves, and it's kind of sick and difficult. It sounds crazy, but it's pretty cool. And so, I just wanted to bring her on here so we can, get to know her a little bit better and the kind of stuff that she's into. So.
Oh, thank you, Eli. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. Really grateful. Thanks for inviting me.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
It's been a journey to be in the space to share all of these different types of activities and experiences with everyone. So I'm excited to share about it here on this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm curious, like, when did this all start? Like, because you're not the normal, you're not the typical, there's definitely not like, I've never met anybody else like you, that's for sure. So like, when did this all start? When did you feel like you were just into just your own thing?
Thank you. Yeah. So, as a kid, I was definitely a wild child. Like that was my nickname with my parents. Like they called me Wild Thing. I just liked to, my mom even said like, she would open the door and I'd just run out. Like I always just wanted to be free. So I have this like instinctual desire to be free and express and play and create. But I actually, during that period of childhood, developed a major wound and kind of was this really free-spirited child, and then really became very insecure, very, very contracted, very afraid, very ashamed of myself and my creativity, and didn't feel worthy. And so then at like middle school, high school, I kind of like did things out of more of that unworthiness wound rather than that little free-spirited, adventurous child that I always knew I am. So once that I started to kind of go into, middle school, high school, and started observing how I am in college, I had a really profound awakening that kind of showed me a lot of these aspects of myself that were more so coming from that wounded space. And I think, we all have our traumas that we go through. Some people grow up in a really great house with a really great family and may not have as much as other people, where maybe they had a really abusive father or mother or parents that abandoned them, things like that. And we don't really grow up in a perfect world. So I kind of use my story as like, okay, how can we all see what maybe we don't realize is actually an illusion within ourselves that we can heal from? And some people may only have very minor traumatic things, like maybe they got made fun of in school or something. You don't really think, oh,
and
wow,
still like hits you.
Yeah, and it takes them to another aspect of themselves that they wouldn't be had they not been made fun of and everything like that. So there's little things and then there's big things, right? Mine was kind of somewhere in the middle, I would say. And then when I had this awakening in college, I took psychedelics, and it really opened up my sense of what is possible. It magnified my dream, but also showed me these areas of wounding. And I kind of like cried it out and had like a deep processing experience. I didn't even really know what was happening, but it also showed me that we are all one. So it's not like I'm just this separate being in this body and then there's other people. It was like, yes, there's that, but then on a deeper level, we're all connected. And so the mushrooms really helped me to become aware of that and to feel that and to have this awareness of like, oh, wow. So that helped me tap into my true self and my creativity, my art. I started dancing. I started going to music festivals, and I actually stopped relying on alcohol in order to express myself. And that's kind of what got me into ecstatic dance and a lot of the things that I do today.
Yeah. You said something that's super interesting. And I think before I think I've only ever heard it one other time, and you said like the power of one. And I'm curious, like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, the power of one, the law of one, just recognizing that we are all one is that state of unity consciousness, of realizing that we are something beyond just this body, this ego, this mind, right? And there's a greater kind of energy that connects us all. That's an unseen force that we can call God, we can call love, we can call spirit, we can call the universe, that kind of connects everything rather than us just being these separate beings doing separate things and nothing is connected. So even like a little tiny impact that I do in my life can ripple out and actually impact everyone else. That's like
True.
one way to see it on a very like physical level, but then even on a metaphysical level, everything being connected and recognizing that there's the deeper thread that connects us all. And it's really beautiful when we tap into that.
No, it is. I remember like we did like a meditation with this guy. Man, I should have probably learned his name. But I remember he talked about like whenever like there was a study of like when a bunch
Andres,
of
I
people,
think.
yeah, Andres, right? When a bunch of people like meditated and like the crime rate went down in that city.
Yeah.
And like I've looked into that study, like,
Yeah.
and there are multiple of that versions of studies, you know, here in the U.S. as well as like overseas and all that. And that's kind of a big deal. The fact that you can actually project energy that can actually calm a city.
Yep.
That's a big deal. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
There's a lot of studies like that. And I was even watching a video last night on how to kind of like measure spiritual intelligence. And the higher the spiritual intelligence is kind of like the deeper that we are closer to that oneness state and that recognition of true oneness and essentially enlightenment. And so one of my teachers, Aaron Abke, he teaches a lot about spiritual intelligence, the law of one, and everything kind of like connected with this whole theme of what we're talking about. And it was really cool to see how, you know, there's different ways to kind of start to measure this. And he's kind of developing this even like program because he's like, or system in order to measure it so that it's no longer this like esoteric kind of teaching, but that it's actually grounded in measurable, you know, science that you can measure in order to study using the scientific method or anything like that. And also Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of research on kind of demystifying.
Joe Dispenza, yeah, I know that name, definitely.
Demystifying the mystical and kind of just understanding how this all works in the sense of a quantum physics and everything like that. So a lot of really cool stuff.
That's pretty next level stuff.
It is really next level stuff. Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza is great. What do you know about him?
Honestly, not that much. I just know the name. I think I've seen like a couple reels from him, you know, like honestly, like a lot of the stuff that like I've read, I've kind of just read like, you know, little here and there because I'm ashamed to admit it. I'm not the biggest reader, but I probably should be. You know, I guess I'm too much caught up in like the whole like I like to see it, you know, type of stuff, like the whole like reels and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do know that he does talk about like higher energy, higher power, and just like connecting with the world. And like I do believe that like we are all connected on some level. You know what that level is? It's hard to like really quantify as an individual, but when 2 people or 3 people are in the same room and then the same idea sparks, like, or everybody feels the same thing, it's like there's a movement, there's a magic in that. And that's the next level stuff, you know? So now all these different things that you do, like how did you start like DJing? How did you start fire spinning? Like when does that start? Because that's pretty bold stuff.
Yeah. So again, like I was saying, like I had that spiritual awakening where it kind of started waking me up to like my art, my dance, my movement. I kind of stepped away from needing to rely on alcohol in order to express myself. Started going to music festivals where I would just start dancing and connecting and playing without really needing, you know, those substances in order to get me there. I know certain ones would like kind of wake me up like that psychedelic experience, but then it wasn't like I needed that in order to continue to feel free or to express myself. So then I was like, oh, wow, like what more can I do? And I started to kind of feel more like my childlike self, that free-spirited, adventurous, wild child that I always was, you know, straight out the womb. And then, like I said, forgot, and then went on that healing experience, started to remember who I am and what really started, where I really came from. And then with that, you know, going to all these different music festivals and just connecting with art, with dance, with just playing in nature again, it reminded me of that. And so I realized that this was so healing for me and for so many people that I was surrounded myself with, because I was going to these music festivals that are not just like, here in Miami, we have a lot of ones that are just music where it's like ultra or something. It's very much, there's still a lot of drinking, there's still a lot of drugs and partying, but these festivals I was going to is actually more in California because I moved out there, and they're called transformational music festivals. We do have some over here too. But they're very much not just about the music, but it's more geared around the transformation. So you have these yoga classes, you have these spiritual talks, like kind of talking about metaphysical stuff. You have all of the like breathwork classes to help you heal and release trauma from the physical body in a somatic way. You have ecstatic dance, and you have epic headliners too. So you have all of it. And there I would just happen to like go into a dance class or go into a breathwork class, have an experience that would heal me even more, connect me even deeper, and still kind of started to heal and release more of that stuck energy that was blocked, that was kind of blocking me from expressing my true self, and started going to primal animal flow classes, ecstatic dance, fire dancing, flow arts, all these different things, and getting really inspired and just seeing how much it was, again, reminding me of who I truly am, of that pure spirit, wild child self.
That's so sick.
And just wanting to share that. And then now that was like so healing for me. I'm just like, I want to create experiences so other people can remember and reawaken. Because once we remember the dance, we remember that we can all trust each other. We can remember how to be with one another. It's not about the separation of, oh, they're this culture, this religion, or anything like that. When we dance together and we celebrate together, we remember that we're one. And so that dance really heals us and reminds us. So I just want to create experiences for other people to get to remember that beautiful space and have fun with life, because it's all about joy and pleasure. And we can really choose that if we want to, or we can stay stuck in those wounded patterns. We can stay stuck in those trauma patterns and bonds that we've had, or we can choose to step out of it. And it takes that step of like, let me do something different. Let me try something different. Let me go to a class that's a little bit out of the norm and start to kind of wake myself up, because I realize that there's more than just this suffering that so many people find themselves in, that I was in for a bit as well too. And that I see so much of my friends and family that I grew up with in that space. So I just have a deep desire to share and support humanity.
Would you say that's what helped build that confidence? Because I will say you have a confidence, not just you, it's really you and your friends. Like, I mean, you got like Luna, Kevin, all these different people. Like, you guys have a level of confidence, I swear to God, that I can only aspire to have. Like, even when I went to ecstatic dance, like everyone's like doing this and I'm just like two-stepping, you know? Because like, I mean, and it's crazy because like, you know, from my group of friends and from who I am, like I actually feel, which is crazy. This is the crazy thing. I actually feel naturally that I have a lot of confidence in myself and what I can do, and you know who I am, and you know, just because I've worked on myself for such a long time, that I feel really proud of the work that I've done. And then it's crazy because I used to have this yoga teacher that used to always say, there's always a deeper level. There's always a deeper level.
It's infinite.
And then when I went to ecstatic dance, I'm like, damn, son, I'm not like y'all. Like, y'all are killing it. Like, I'm looking at y'all and I'm just like, there's a dude hanging from the monkey bars. I'm like, bro, what the heck? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, these children, I can only imagine them as kids. Oh my God, they must have all been wild children. But like you said, to start doing things that make you uncomfortable, start getting into things that like really just kind of make you feel maybe like a little afraid to first do. Like, would you say like that's how it all started?
Yeah. Getting out of our comfort zone, like you just said, is the biggest step. And just taking that leap. Like you're like, I've never been to an ecstatic dance, but I'm going to go. Like,
sorry, I'm going. I mean, I'm not too afraid to show up. Like,
yeah, you chose that. And some people might, some people may never go because they feel that discomfort and then they choose to stay where they're at.
Yeah.
So you can either choose to stay where you're at, feel that discomfort, choose to stay where you're at, or feel that discomfort and choose to step forward and step into it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest breakthrough. That's literally all it really is. And you keep doing that day after day. It doesn't need to be like a huge leap of faith. I mean, yeah, you can major timeline shift, or you can increments little, okay, I'm going to go to this yoga class, 1 hour, this ecstatic dance, this music festival, one step at a time, and start to just awaken, open up. That is going to make huge shifts over the course of even a few months, and let alone a few years. So yeah, those are really great ways. And like you said, like where you're like, I'm just two-stepping. I mean, like my first ecstatic dance, I was looking around. I went to one of the like biggest and most like liberated ecstatic dances.
All the way
I jumped real deep in it. I mean, I had been to like, some music festivals at that time, but still ecstatic dance was, it's just focused around the dance. And it's a free form. For those who don't know what ecstatic dance is, it's a free form dance experience. Basically, you, be free. Don't worry about don't worry about what anyone thinks. Don't worry about what you think. It's actually more about getting out of the thinking mind and into the body and expressing, no matter how weird, wild, amazing, terrible it looks. Like, just be you. It's not about what it looks. It's just about the feeling and the connection, you and the music. Even if you're totally offbeat, literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, it literally didn't matter.
I mean, most people, once you connect, you are the beat. It's just, that's inevitable when you drop in. However, you don't need to be a professional dancer. You don't need to know certain dance moves, because that's not what it's about. It's just about feeling and being. So when people tell me, like, hey, teach me this dance you do, I'm like, I'm just going to teach you how to feel.
Yeah.
I'm just going to teach you how to be you. Because it's not about, like, yes, you can learn moves and you can, have a greater vocabulary at ecstatic dance if you want, or you can just literally close your eyes and see how the music moves you and kind of step out of the comfort zone of whatever, rhythms that you're already used to and do something different. You can even look at other people and like mimic them, and that's going to help you expand because you are also them. So they're showing you a part of yourself, and that's really what inspired me a lot. I'd go to these music festivals, I'd watch the professional dancers on stage and be like blasted open, mind blown by how they were dancing, and just like, let me try and copy them. Yeah. And then by that, I would download some new moves by watching them being very present with their movements. And then at the dance myself, just, okay, let me see if I can do that. And then kind of creating my own flow out of those moves that I got inspired by other dancers. So take inspiration from other people, see how it flows through you, and then what you create from that space. And we realize that we are art. Our bodies are art. We don't need to have like a certain type of training for that. Yes, we can, and it would be even more magical, great, more amazing, more of a professional sense. But it's really just about the expression. And when we dance, we release emotions. We step into the present moment, and we release energy that's trapped in. If you have an emotion of anger, we're actually doing an specific emotional release dance this Friday. And so if anger is something that's really hard for you to express, for a lot of women it may be, because it's kind of shunned for women to express anger as it is for men to express grief. So if that's holding you back, and that's not like, oh, only men can express anger and only women can express grief. No, like we all have that. But since the society has a social condition and norm that it's like not cool or whatever to do that, we end up harboring these emotions inside of us. And when we harbor these emotions inside of us, they actually, like, what you suppress continues to need to be expressed. And so when like what you resist persists. So if you're resisting that feeling of anger as a woman, maybe, and men too, but I'm just giving an example of that could be more common for our society, and they're never getting to express that in a healthy way, that could come out in relationships in a way that's very unhealthy. That could come out in ways that, because it's still there. It's just because you suppress it doesn't mean it goes away. It's just like goes away, it's pushed down, and all of a sudden it's a trigger and it just explodes, and that could be very unhealthy and that could be dangerous. And that's what happens a lot of times. And then for men too, it could lead to
our
depression.
Emotions boil over, and then they blow up in different ways.
And for men, if they're not expressing that grief because they're like, oh, it's not cool for men to cry, I can't show this to people, then they could be really depressed inside, and they could even have anger on top of that because they're holding on to so much. So this is an experience to just release it, scream it out, cry it out, laugh it out. Maybe you need to laugh, maybe you need to be in pleasure, whatever that is that needs to be expressed. Like, this is a safe space to do so without judgment, because one of the main pillars of ecstatic dance is release judgment of yourself and release judgment of the other person, any other person. And when you release judgment of yourself, it's really hard to judge anyone else anyways. Yeah. It's almost impossible. So that's, a big part of it. And we talk about this and the emotions that can get stuck inside of us and causing illness in the body. And we don't realize the connection between, oftentimes in society, we don't realize the connection between emotions and our physical health and well-being. We think they're separate. And that's the problem with modern medicine, is that modern medicine sees everything as separate, as opposed to recognizing that, again, everything is connected. Everything in the body, everything in the mind body is one unit. So if something's going on out of alignment, out of balance in the mind, that gets affected in the body And that can also cause illness. It's not always about, oh, okay, because they're eating unhealthy and all these things. They could be eating unhealthy because maybe they have an unworthiness pattern that's causing them to constantly eat in order to feel better, because really deep down inside, they're not understanding that there's some part of them that actually gets to be looked at and healed and loved and accepted in order to really flow through.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about ecstatic dance, it's all love. It's all love. And for those who haven't been, I highly recommend that you should go. It's like the moment you walk in there, I mean, you feel a little out of place for sure, but it's all love. I mean, it's a very unique place. It's definitely a very unique place.